All right, so for the past 6 or 8 Rogue Trader streams, I've had people jumping in and asking, how does this compare to Baldur's Gate 3? And I understand why people have that question, but I would also love if people didn't try to make that comparison because Baldur's Gate 3 is a lot different than Rogue Trader. They are two different levels of the CRPG scale. Baldur's Gate 3 is very much a AAA $100+ million game with hundreds and hundreds of people of it, and Rogue Trader is a lesser scale game that doesn't have quite that big of a budget. Still millions of dollars, but not hundreds of, not 100 million plus. So there is a level of scale. And when I say scale, I'm not talking mechanics. I'm talking there are things like cut scenes and rich dialogue with characters that is fully voiced throughout everything. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3, Larian built a mocap and cinematic studio from the ground up, right? From the ground up, built that, and that was the core aspect of Baldur's Gate 3 is that it was a CRPG with cinematic gameplay and motion capture as opposed to just traditional animation style. So we go back to Rogue Trader, and we're very much in the older mentality of this is just a traditional CRPG in terms of it doesn't have that cinematic experience, but what Rogue Trader has that Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have is things like your kingdom management aspect, the colonies and the projects. There's space combat with your ships. So not only do you have turn-based gameplay from the CRPG perspective, but you also have turn-based gameplay for your ship. And there's a whole other leveling process there with the things you could do with your ship and how you kit your ship out and level it up and your characters and all the there's similarities, but they also diverge quite a bit. So here's what I would like to say though. In terms of, I'm going to sit down for this one. I've been standing up for like the past 5 videos I've made. So let's go ahead and sit down here and I'll talk a bit from this perspective, even though I look small on the screen. It's all good. You're here for the long haul. Baldur's Gate 3 is a really good CRPG with a ton of options, and it showed people, like the masses, it showed general gamers and the masses what a CRPG is at a highly polished level in a way that hasn't been done before, right? However, I could also argue that many CRPGs before Baldur's Gate 3 have provided us with rich immersive experiences. From the first 2 Baldur's Gate games to Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, Icewind Dale 1 and 2, Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, Dragon Age Origins, that series, Fallout 1 and 2. There have been games over the years that have provided CRPG players with richly immersive experiences. And if you haven't played the previous 2 titles from Owlcat Games, their Kingmaker game, the Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous games that they did in the Pathfinder universe were equally impressive on a mechanics and story size scale to with what Baldur's Gate 3 presented. Same thing with Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. Those are all games that are like 150, 200 hour experiences, rich immersive CRPGs. So the only difference that I can really point to when people ask me, "Hey, how can how does Rogue Trader compare to Baldur's Gate 3?" is I try to say, well, just take a step back from the cinematic aspect that Baldur's Gate 3 provided everyone with, and you'll see that this game is equally impressive in terms of mechanics, lore, the writing for the characters, the overall dialogue and everything else. But Rogue Trader doesn't have the budget, so they have limited voice acting. They don't do the cinematic experience, but yet they still provide you with a great core game. I also love the fact that there's social media banter between like these smaller companies like Tactical Adventures, who did Solasta, and Owlcat Games and Larian Studios. They all sort of retweet each other's successes, and everyone's sort of celebrating in the same CRPG pool. And I watched an interview or read an interview recently with one of the leads from Owlcat Games where he was talking about, obviously everyone is drawing those comparisons right now because Baldur's Gate 3 is something that it took the world by storm in a way that CRPGs haven't done for many years, and it crossed into the mainstream, showing people that, hey, yeah, CRPGs are a really fun style of game, right? And they can be done at AAA scale if companies are willing to put the money in and actually make a good game, and worry less about it being a game as a service and just worry about producing something fun. Other companies have done this, not to this scope and scale. I would argue that like the last two God of War games have been very much single player. Here's all the content, no microtransactions. It's not a game as a service. Also, the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order. I should totally do a second playthrough of Jedi Survivor, by the way. I only did the one last year. Ooh, do I have time to do that? I don't know. I need to do Dragon's Dogma, but man, it would be fun to do another Jedi Survivor playthrough. Anyway, um, there have been some really good single player games in recent years, but this really showed how a CRPG can do the same thing and provide people with hundreds of hours of entertainment, and it's just a price. It's whatever it's going to cost you. I think I got the pre-order years ago for like $40, right, for Baldur's Gate 3, and then I paid $70 when it came out on the Xbox. They wanted to have it there too. And for Rogue Trader, I think I paid about $40 to get in. And it's like, for a game that's going to give you 150 to 200 hours of gameplay for your first gameplay session, game playthrough, $40 is like, come on, like, especially when a lot of AAA games these days are charging 70. So you're definitely getting your money's worth with Rogue Trader, on top of it just being a really good game. Are there bugs? Yeah. Baldur's Gate 3 had a shitload of bugs when it came out. Are you kidding me? I've played that game through 3 years of early access, and ever since it went live. Their first like 5 patches fixed. I don't know how it was in the thousands. Their hot fixes and patches in the early days of Baldur's Gate 3. There were tons of bugs, but it was still an absolutely phenomenal experience. Because Chapter 1 was so well polished that they had a little bit of a runway before people started hitting stuff that hadn't had thousands and millions of sets of eyes on it yet, and that was when the cracks started to show. But then they have since done an excellent job of patching up, and Owlcat is doing the exact same thing. Their game came out. I think they've already had 2, if not 3 patches have come out since this game launched. So it's been out for 3 weeks, like a month. I guess it's been out for a month. December 7th. So it's been out for about 3 weeks. And they have done, I'm recording this today, so today would be the 4th week. So that would be, we're 28 days out from its launch. So essentially it's been out for about a month. And they've already patched 2 or 3 patches. I actually can't be sure of that. So I would say that Owlcat has proven that they are just as on top of bug fixing and patching as Larian Studios or any other company that takes an active interest in the IPs that they release. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload, or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Warhammer 40K is a CRPG, Rogue Trader. This is a CRPG at its core. Just remember, it's not a cinematic CRPG in the way that Baldur's Gate 3 is. And if you can take yourself back from that and make that distinction, you'll realize that this game is equally fun, immersive. It has just as much narration. It has just as much dialogue. It has just as much lore and content in terms of it being, a minimum of like 100 hours, if you really want to go through and take your time and explore other systems. And then you want to go completionist, you'll do 200 hours, and then if you do a speed run, it's going to be 50 to 75, which is about what Baldur's Gate 3 is if you like clear all the main content. That's impressive by any company standards, by any game standards. Having that much content to play through is something to be celebrated. So hopefully everyone out there who wants to make the comparisons is doing so from a place of just wanting to understand if this is something that they might want to sink their teeth into. I think it is, especially for the cost. It's going to be different for everybody, but Rogue Trader is an amazing game, and if you like the CRPG style of what Baldur's Gate gave you, Baldur's Gate 3, I would say this game just came out. it's a great game to play. You could also look at something like Solasta from Tactical Adventures, which came out a couple years back, but they've done multiple expansions since then, and it's 5th edition D&D, so you could try that as well. But I like Rogue Trader specifically because it's a different rule set that I'm not familiar with. So I know 5th edition. I didn't know anything about the Warhammer world before I played this game, and what I really like with what they've done with their game is they went a similar route to what Larian did with Baldur's Gate 3, where they took the rule set and said, we're going to kind of do that, but we're also going to have to make changes because it's a video game. And there are things that you just can't do in a video game, or things that need to be done in a video game that can't be done in tabletop, and vice versa. So it's an adaptation. And I'm having a great time with it and having a lot of fun. And it's definitely been worthy of my time. It's a great main game for me right now. It's definitely taken longer than I thought. I would have to look at what GOG tells me, but I feel like I'm over the 40-hour mark. I've been playing, a few times a week, and just taking my time. This wasn't something that I planned to just get through in like 2 weeks of time. I think we're up to 50 episodes in the sessions, and I think we went up to I think we were in the 90s with Baldur's Gate 3 when I finished up. So we'll see how far I get with this one. So I feel like we're probably getting to roughly the halfway mark. We'll see for a first playthrough, but it's been a lot of fun. So hopefully that can answer the question of how does Rogue Trader compare to Baldur's Gate 3? Because in the future, when anybody asks me this on stream, rather than repeating this over and over and over to people who have heard it a million times, we're just going to point to this video and be like, hey, here's all you need to know. If you watch this by random chance, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams here and on Twitch, usually at 5 p.m. Central. And of course, we have a lot of other things that happen. So check out the playlists, check out the Discord. I do 7, sometimes more videos per day on YouTube. So check them all out. Until next time, stay safe. Happy gaming, everybody.